my mate was, he didn't want to go in the forces, and they could go as bedding boys, and he came over here to Clipston, to the pit here, as a bedding boy. And anyway, I met Joyce, and I fell for her straight away, really.
So how did you meet Joyce?
Well, the lad said to me one day in the week, you want to make a foursome up for Friday night to go to pictures? So I said, all right then. I come home on the Thursday night, and we got married on the Saturday morning. And we had the top room. We got married at the church, and we had the top room in the Wally. Yeah. And when it was time for her to come up to church, because I went and stopped with her brother at her brother's house, the bloke who was a taxi who was going to do it, he was called Tictor. They called him Tictor. I don't know why. He cleared off to Skegness where somebody took him for the holidays. And in the morning, and he was supposed to pick her up at 3 in the afternoon. Of course, in them days, the cars didn't go very fast. They weren't like they are now. And when it was time for her to come up, he wasn't there. She said, well, I can't walk up to the church. So the brother got the wheelbarrow. And he says, if you trim the bloody wheelbarrow up with some blankets or something. And he said, we'll take you up in this. Anyway, just as I was setting off with this wheelbarrow, he came with a taxi. And of course she was late up at the church. Reverend Wickens, I can always remember him. He gave us a pep talk on sex and such when we had the pep talk after.
So what brought you back to Clipston?
Well, Joyce got, after 2 years, she got pregnant, and she wanted to be near her mother. And so I came over first and went to Clipston Pit to see the manager. And I told him I was a joiner and I wanted a job. So he says, come and see me when you're not employed. So of course I went straight back to Lincoln and gave me notice in. And we moved over here, because we hadn't got no furniture and that then. I got £46 from the Navy, and that's, I had to get married on that, 46 quid. And we had to buy furniture and everything out of that, the £46. And I went down to the pit thinking he'd got to do the damn job for me. And he said, oh, we use crippled miners to do our joinery down the pit, he said. So he said, if you want to come down the pit, you can have a job. And I thought, I never dreamt of it. He'd frightened me to death to think I'd got to go down that hole. So I said, oh no, I don't want that. And then I got a chance of a job at Bealvis farm at Old Clipston. And he wanted a maintenance man to do all his houses up and that. I come over to see him, and there was an house empty, New Buildings Farm, and one of the houses was empty. Bilby said you can have the house rent free, and all the vegetables and that you want from the fields, just go and pick them up, take them. And they give me a lorry. I never drove before. He says you can use this to go about in. I used to get £11 a fortnight then, and I was the joiner, the state joiner. £11 a fortnight. After 2 years at Bilby's, I'd worked him up. I'd done all the repairs to the houses and everything. So he started sending me in the fields driving the tractor. But I was doing another chap out of his job, and I didn't like doing that really. And he wasn't all that keen either. And so I decided, I told Bilby that I was going to go down to the pit. And I went down to the pit and got a job down, and I went down the pit. I was there 13 years. I hated it. It was a steam winding then. They didn't want these headstocks. It was steam winding then. And when they'd been turning coal all day, and by the time it was time for us to come home, they were getting short of steam. So you'd get halfway up the shaft and hang there for about 3/4 of an hour while they got enough steam to wind you to the top. And you could see the daylight, or you was hanging in mid-air in the shaft. And then when they got enough steam to get us to the top, they'd pull us up. I had a lot of accidents at the pit. When I first went down there was ponies. And I went on taking material to the coal face. A pony used to pull the tubs down for me. And but they were nearly getting time that they finished altogether with ponies, and we put belts in instead, ropes, and we used to clip them tubs on. And then I wanted more money, so I asked if I could go on the face. Oh dear. What a bloody job. We went in the face was like two stables, they called them. One at one end of the face and one at the other. And there was about, say, a quarter of a mile away apart, something like that. And we had to dig this stable 6 foot in front of the coal face every day by hand. And the chap who was in charge, I was chopping away at the coal, and he come to me and said, "You ain't done this before, have you, mate?" So I said, "No, I ain't." He says, "Well, you want to strike there?" And just as he put his hand up to there, I was already striking, and the pick went straight through between his bones here and come out the other side. Of course, he went up it, but covered in blood. Hey, dear. I'll never forget it. he didn't tell me he was going to do. He just put his hand up and said, "You want to strike there?" And I thought I was stuck. I was on the way. And bang, straight through it. And then I got on there was 4 of them digging coal out, chucking it back to me, and I had to shovel it up and chuck it onto a belt. Well, they was experienced at it, and they just about buried me in bloody coal. I said, "You let us stop, I can't shovel." And so they had to stop digging in and let me dig myself out, sort of thing. And then I went on the face itself. And what they used to do, they used to go 6 foot forward, and the bloke used to come on at night and cut the coal 6 foot in. Well, the coal was hanging, nothing so holding it, so they put wooden chocks underneath every now and again. Well, our first job when we went on in day, because I was getting them, you got 7 yards of this coal in face and 6 foot under, and that was you had to put all that coal on every day on the belt, cut it out. The first job was you had to lay on your back where the chock was and just make a bit of a gap for your body to get in and get all what they called it gumming. It was what the cutter left. You had to get all that out right at the back of the cut, because if you didn't, when they fired the shots, it made the coal go hard and you couldn't pick it out, you couldn't get it then. And it didn't come away properly. And so, because when they fired the shots, the bloke used to come drilling, put shots in 6 foot, and if there was any gumming left, when them shots went off, it just stopped the coal from falling down. So you had to do it properly, and you had to do 7 yards of that before they could fire shots. That was your first job. And then you had to come off the face and let them fire the shots. Then just go back and start then, and chuck all the coal onto a belt, what was going along the face. And you had to clear it all up before your shift was over. And the first face I went on was only 4 foot high, so you were bent all the time. You was either on your knees or bent down, and you had to clear it all up. And if you went too near, I was a bit genuine sort of thing. I had to get all the coal off. But if you went too near the coal you was leaving, what had been fired, the coal was in like layers, and if you went too close, another 2 foot would drop off the face. And of course, if it dropped off, you had to clean it up. Well, of course, our bloke who's been doing it for years, he said, don't go right to the face, Reg. He said, leave a bit, because if you don't and it falls off, you have to clean it all up. Because there's a machine got to go through, you see, to cut the next one. And so But I got the beard man on the face after a time. But I had some near misses. I went on afternoons. Just got fed up of me being on days and nights, and I went on afternoons. And I was putting packs on. The other side of the belt, when they moved the belt forward, the 6 foot, we had to go on over the back and pull all the bars, what was holding the roof up. We had to build a pack. You had to build a wall of big lumps round and then fill all the middle up with loose stuff out to the waist, what was left. Well, I'd done mine, and I was in charge of them all, and there was one bloke a little bit slow, and I went back down to him, and he said, I just got that what do you call them? Pillar right, it was metal. And I said, well, you go and start your ass back then and I'll get this out. Well, when I went in to look at it, the weight of the roof had pressed down on the bar and it had pressed through the wood, what was on top of the steel. So it was steel to steel. So I thought, well, to stop it flying while I was under it, I put a chain round it, and we used to pull them out with a machine, like hand machine. And I went in to put the chain round, and the blasted thing blew through. And I knew the lot was coming on to me, so I run out of the waist. And the coal hit me at the back of the neck, the roof. Well, it was stone, not coal. And it went right down my back. And fortunately, with me being running, it didn't squash me down. It pushed me out. Of course, it was on a Saturday. And I come up the pit, went into the baths, and we used to, each one of us used to wash the other's back, you know. And this bloke come to wash my back, he said, oh, your back's in a hell of a mess, mate. And I said, why? He said, well, there's blood running all down your back. And looks as though your skin's come off with it. So I said, yeah, I've had a bit of accident. I'm going to the ambulance room when I get out. Of course, with it being Saturday, the ambulance man had gone. And so a nurse on Edmonton Road here, she lived, nurse, I knew her name once. She come down to the Highfield Road, Clipston, to our house, and she said, come with me. And she took me up to her house and put me in a bath of water with a scrubbing brush, and she scrubbed me back to get all the coal dust out of it. But I've still got a marking in my back now where she didn't get it out. And she scrubbed what she could to get it out and wrapped it up, and that was it. I went back home and went back to work the next day, after the weekend. I never had and I got my head crushed. I was driving they gave me a job of driving a diesel locomotive down the pit. It was like a big engine, bigger, longer than this room, big steel thing. And it was a diesel, and I was taking 40 tubs of coal down to to be sent up the pit. And the last tub had come off the rails, and I could see it in the distance. But if I kept going, when it come to a joint, it put it on the rails automatically. So I was leaning out the cab, driving this locomotive, looking at this tub to see that it come on all right. And all of a sudden, something hit me at the back of the head, and it was one of the steel rings. And the front of my head hit the cage on the top of the diesel, and this thing hit me at the back. And fortunately, I've got a lot of air on, and I pulled my head out, and it squashed my helmet to about 2 inches. And all of a sudden a big lump come out here, and a big lump come out there. I wondered what the hell was coming towards him when I was black as hell and dust, you know. And anyway, I sent for Dr. Milmo. He come down the pit to me, and he said, let her get you up, Reg. And I went to work the next day. I couldn't afford to be off, because she didn't get nothing really. But if I'd have known, I could have sued the coal board, because there was a law that the diesel locomotives had to be 18 inches clear of all ironwork. And of course I didn't know that. And so I never got anything for it.
So what did the doctor say? What was the damage?
Well, I went to work with a big lump on my head, and that was it. It didn't split it or anything, so they just left it. Aye.
And what impact did these accidents have on your life?
It didn't help my nerves anything. In fact, I had a nervous breakdown, and I had to come out the pit. And I went on the pit top, working in the... I was taking material to the pit top to send down the pit. And with me being a diesel driver down below, they had a diesel engine on the top, so I drove that.
And when you had your breakdown,
well,
did you have time off of work, or
no?
Just
No, the money was no poor like. It was worse than what it was down the pit, of course. And so they sent me working in. They had a new thing come to the pit. It was a trichoethylene we used to put in it. And it was a big tank, and I was on my own. They gave me this job, and I took over this job, and all the machinery that came out the pit in sections, they sent it to me, and I had to take them to bits and then lift them with a crane into this trichoethylene and it took all the paint and all the oil and grease and everything off the machinery. And about every 2 weeks I had to go down into this tank myself and clean the sludge off from the bottom. And I didn't really recognise then it was a dangerous thing to do. But I just didn't bother. But and then I went into the fitter's shop and started building machines back up again. And I got to be a grade 1 fitter. Funny enough. And then